All right, a couple weeks ago, we shared this embarrassing story with you of our stay, what still should have been a month-long stay, but we were asked to leave a week into that 1 month stay. Well, I'm telling you, you're gonna wanna stick around to the end of this video because I'm telling you, you are not going to believe the rest of the story. Well, hello redesigners and welcome back to the channel. It has been a nutty couple weeks to say the least, and we have a lot to share with you today.
Now, for those of you stopping by for the first time, I am Bob.
I'm Karri.
And in 2022, Karri and I sold everything we owned. We hit the road full-time in our RV, and we had a blast until about 9 weeks ago, where we were asked to leave an RV park 1 week in to a 1 month stay, all because of a video review that they said we did that we couldn't find that we had done because we had never been there before. And while we had no problems with leaving because it is private property, we did have a concern when they said they were going to blacklist us from their network of over 100 plus RV parks throughout the country. Now, we made that video and it blew up to the tune of 274,000 people viewed that video. And along the lines, we gained a whole bunch of new subscribers, which is
2,773.
And along that road also came ad revenue from YouTube in the amount of $1,916, which we are over the moon excited for, not because of it's our money, but because we like to donate the ad revenue portion of YouTube to mental health organizations across the country. And this will probably be our largest donation to date.
Yeah.
And we thank each and every one of you for stopping by for that. Now, I don't want to make this video any longer than it needs to be because we have a lot of ground to cover and it's going to shock you when you find out what we found out. But the first part is we want to talk about the comments that came over.
Yeah, a lot of them were so great in offering your driveways or you knew of another campground in the area that we could scoot on over to. So we really appreciate that.
We even got invited on a convoy down to Mexico, which was...
that would have been cool.
Absolutely.
The other side of that was people wanting to know who this park was and why we didn't call them out, and we should call them out. There were a lot of those comments.
I would say overwhelmingly it was people asking us to expose the RV park. Now, Karri and I belong to a valid point of thinking, which is cooler heads prevail. And sometimes taking a step back from the situation, we understand why everybody wanted to know, but we also didn't want to create a monster out of something that could have been handled calmly.
Considering we had no idea what they were even talking about.
And we had no idea that this video was going to blow up. Again, that video was simply made to, well, you can go back and see, it was just made to update our loyal subscribers and viewers. That was it. Now, we did have a family member who is an attorney. Hello, Mark, and we want to thank you for everything.
Definitely.
Mark reached out to us a few days ago and said, hold on to your hats, kids. Your little video that you did kind of took off, which we knew, but they want to have a conversation, and they being the RV park. And, you know, this was kind of interesting because I'm like, well, I don't know if I want to have this conversation now. And he goes, you're going to want to have this conversation. Now, before we get into what happened here, this is very important that you stick around to the end because there's a lot of twists and turns that we need to navigate. And it also involves some unlikely supporters of ours that came through just randomly.
And Bob's going to handle most of that because I wasn't on this call.
So right off the bat, we want to talk briefly and just call this what it was. It was a very big case of, well, stolen identity. We had used to be operating under the brand 25 Plus Life until we went full time, and we've covered this before, and we changed over to Life Redesigned because it was more fitting for what we did. What we didn't know was that somebody out there was going to jump in and they were going to take that 25 Plus Life brand that we had built, all that 1,000 subscribers that we had before the switch, and they were going to basically rip us off to suit their agenda. These crazy stories remind me of all those text messages that I get from that Nigerian prince that wants to send me $4 million if I send him 1,000 first.
Oof.
And that package from UPS that I never ordered that just can't seem to get delivered to us.
Well, we know one of the reasons why we get so many spam calls and texts is because big companies, they can't keep our data safe.
That's true, Karri. And recently, AT&T, amongst all companies, revealed that nearly all their customers' call and text records have been exposed in a massive data breach.
Wow.
And it hasn't even been a few months since they admitted over 70 million, that's million with an M, of their users' social security numbers ended up on the dark web.
Wow, those stolen logs also contained a record of every AT&T customer's called or texted. So that means even if you don't use AT&T and you called or texted someone that uses AT&T, your number has been exposed as well.
Let that sink in for a minute. You don't even use AT&T. You're not even a customer of theirs, but somebody called you and you're still getting scammed?
Yeah.
That's kind of crazy. So you have to ask yourself, what can you do to protect yourself? Now, we personally use Aura, which is the sponsor of today's video. Aura will alert us if they find any of our sensitive information or phone numbers have been compromised.
And they will give us fast fraud alerts if anyone tries to use that data to access our credit or bank accounts.
And Aura does so much more to keep me and my family safe too. We also get things like transaction monitoring, a VPN, antivirus,
Yep.
a password manager, parental controls. Yes, the kids are still on some of our accounts, and identity theft insurance, which if you're watching this video, you know is important. We get all of this in one app at an affordable price. We can also get their AI-powered call assistant that will pick up unknown calls on my behalf. It means I don't even have to talk to them.
That is the coolest part.
And they will screen them for spam
Yep.
or scams. The AI forwards the legitimate calls to me so I don't miss appointments, deliveries, and emergencies.
And it also protects us from harmful text messages by filtering out unknown spam numbers and scanning the message for phishing threats.
Now, I'm not leaving myself or my family vulnerable to data breaches, and if you don't want to either, you can go to aura.com/life-redesigned. See how simple we made that? And you can try your first 2 weeks for free.
Link in the video description below.
And what they did was they took 2 videos of RV parks that we had reviewed out in Vermont. One of them was a state park and the other one was a KOA. They had merged those together in a smear campaign against an RV park in Myrtle Beach, which is just crazy to think of. So what they did was they took those parks and they introduced segments of, well, they were accusing that park of drug dealing and prostitution, and they did such a
Disgusting.
convincing job that the video clips that I had seen, I almost thought it was us, and I could not understand how this was happening. So that brings up the other questions is, well, how the hell did the park know who you were? Well, they didn't. Somebody else had recognized us as Life Redesigned, and as we were checking out one day, just coming in to grab some mail and stuff, someone said, oh wow, you just got to talk to Life Redesigned, we like them. Yeah, go figure, there's one person in the world that likes us. And they were out talking to the counter, and the counter's like, hey, they're telling their management, hey, these YouTubers are here, and I guess they have a little bit of a following, and you know, we might want to be nice to them. And so they looked us up and they went, wait a minute, we know those people. He used to have a really long beard. And that they put 2 and 2 together and immediately asked us to leave because they thought, and why wouldn't they, that that video was made by us. Now that video had been taken down months ago through YouTube. They had reached out and said, hey, wait a minute, this stuff is kind of questionable. It had already been taken down from that channel that did this. What we had seen through Mark was, you know, clips that they had screenshotted and recorded.
Awful.
It was quite vile, and it was something that we would never even remotely cover. Even if it was true, we probably wouldn't even have touched on this. And this was an interesting thing because, well, you know, who would steal somebody like us? We're nobodies, right? And well, apparently it was good enough for them to piece together and make this massive thing. We don't blame them at all for asking us to leave because we would have probably done the same thing. That's how bad this video was. I can't stress it enough. It was horrendous. What makes this even worse is what we're about to discuss next. Okay, So Mark had worked out an arrangement with the RV park and their network and explained this whole situation. We were able to prove that this wasn't anything that we would have done. And it was kind of a painless process. They were actually very accommodating. They were very apologetic. Not only had we been refunded, but we've also been invited to stay at no cost should we want to return.
It's embarrassing nonetheless.
Whether we do or not, that's another thing. But we do want to thank them for having that discussion. We also want to thank you, because if it wasn't for all the interaction, whether it's good or bad, on that video, it wouldn't have taken off the way it did, and therefore they wouldn't have had the, well, I guess the decency to sit down and have that discussion. That was a huge thing, and I can't say it enough, not calling them out and having that discussion as adults was the best thing that we could have done.
Absolutely.
Because it doesn't open us to libel, it doesn't open us up to any ill will from the RV park, and it actually cleared our name. Now, what's an interesting part of this, and what the most disturbing part of this is, after this was all done, we were all set to just film this part out, shoot it out to you guys, and just let you know that everything was good and life was fine. Until I check Instagram. And I'm not a big Instagrammer. Karri handles most of this stuff, but I was kind of surprised, and I'm going to try to put this on screen if I can figure out how to do this, but I got a message from someone's personal account. And it come over Todd, and I'm not going to give Todd's last name out because I don't know if he does on his channel or not. But it's somebody that we've been very critical of on the YouTube space, and that is Todd from Switch It Up. Todd reached out to us from his personal account and says, and I quote, "I know you are not a fan of us, but as creators, we work hard to build brands. This scammer is using you guys and the logo from another channel on TikTok. Just a heads up for you to look out." And I said, "Oh, hey Todd, do you have a link? Because I can't find anything under our brand." And Todd sends us this link. And again, I'll put this up here. And I'm shocked, because what they had done was they had taken one of our videos from Life Redesigned last year, which we called out a lot of YouTubers for the whole everybody's quitting thing. And they used that, and they got a ton of views. In fact, they got more than what we ever got on TikTok.
Like, okay.
They used our video clips to get, again, the same thing as what happened on YouTube. They took our video clips to form their own agenda and attack a certain group of people. And the funny part about this was, they didn't even use our logo.
No.
So they cropped our logo out of the video, and they used a channel called Paving New Paths, or Paving Our Paths.
Paving New Paths.
Something along that lines.
Yeah.
And we had reached out to TikTok, and we had them copyright removed all their content. And they're still out there. I think they operate under a different name now, but none of our content is there. And I believe that Paving New Paths, or Our Paths, have already been reached out to. This is a huge thing, and the more that we've talked to people, before I go any further, Todd, we want to thank you and Sheila for reaching out to us. If you don't know who Switch It Up is, please do check out their channel. Todd and I have differences of opinions. We have the same message, different deliveries. Todd is somebody that I've talked to on and off for the past couple of years, and we do want to thank them, because it shows you the power of YouTube. And this was one creator to another who we have opposing views on things, but we were able to come together into common ground, and we thank you tremendously. But this does happen all the time.
And who would have thought, like, I mean, yes, we have, what, 23,000?
Oh, now we're at like 24,000. There's no stopping us.
But I mean,
sarcasm, people, sarcasm.
To us, we're still small. Like, why would you, and maybe that's why, because they thought, you know, well, they're not going to know who these people are anyway. Well, joke's on you.
Now, a little back end on this one here, talking to the RV park staff, they had over 23 canceled reservations in the 9 months that that video had been up from that scammer channel.
That's terrible. 23
reservations. They lost a lot of revenue from not only that, their reputation was horrible, because people were being accused of dealing drugs on property. Why?
Yeah, and solicitation of other things.
Yeah, and that's like a huge thing. And the fact that they had this conversation, we're still working with them. So I'm not going to, again, I don't believe
there's only so much. We can say so much.
Right.
And so we're telling you everything we can say.
I do want to say this. There was a few people that commented that name the park, name the park, name the park, so much so that they were very aggressive, and then they started being rude to us and calling us names because we wouldn't name the park. And then there was the other side that wanted us to name the park so that they could give them a bad review. And that's not how all of this should work. If you have a bad experience with the place, go ahead and give it honest feedback. But don't go give it a bad review because Life Redesigned was treated differently. Right. That's not what that was intended for. That's not something we would ever advocate for or ask any of our audience to do. I think that's a fair and safe way to handle it. I may come across as pompous, arrogant, and sometimes a jerk, but our heart is always in the right place, and we want businesses to thrive, and we also want this community to act as a community and not a bunch of raging lunatics, because I think there's enough of that going on in the world. So that's really all I wanted to say there.
That is the story. That is the end.
We want to circle back. I'm going to cut you off again, Karri, because apparently that's my full-time occupation.
Well, Bob,
but we want to circle back, and we want to thank the sponsor of today's video, Aura, because of them reaching out to us at this time. These are the things when Karri and I say the universe shall provide. These are the reasons we say that. Aura, we thank you for sponsoring this video and for also giving our viewers a great little deal on an awesome product that now we highly recommend everybody has.
Absolutely.
Until next time, I am Bob.
I am still Karri.
And this is?
This is Life Redesigned.
That's right. It's not life bamboozled. It's not life recreated. It's not life refixed or something. It is Life Redesigned.